digits on either of the maps.
Yes.
They were very, very strong, very dominant. And MIBR, if we see the same MIBR that we saw yesterday, I'm a little concerned for them.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the thing, right? I think MIBR, they had kind of their moments of brilliance and then their moments of, well, quite literally the opposite. And that's what makes things scary. And of course, the biggest question coming in.
Turtle, I mean, he was a freaking hero yesterday. Let's see if he can kind of replicate those same results here. He had a bit of a slow start to the day as well, but it was later on in the day where he really started to show up. Unfortunately, Fallen, a hero for Imperial, they're not going to let them get the same results again.
Yeah, really, really nice round for him. And of course, there's now these big implications both ways. For MIBR, what's the buy they're going to go for? They've got a bomb plant. They've got kind of that kind of sort of economy, but is it going to be good enough?
And I just want to kind of, so I was talking about the major and how they played each other back then. And the veto was very similar. It was Inferno, Vertigo, and then Nuke.
Yeah.
But on Vertigo, MIBR took it 16-8.
For sure,
So it
wasn't
terribly close. And they did start on the T side as well. Obviously, it was their map pick, so Imperial would have started on CT. So I think they're still feeling quite confident coming into this. And, well, they're off to a pretty shaky start, but it's only round 2.
Speaking of, it's a 1-4-1, but FNX in towards backhand side of sight. Good for 2 to his name. Wood's going to find the trade, but at the very least, going to get that bomb down. MIBR once again in a situation, or I guess they get that bomb down. Not going to be the case, actually. Vinny coming in close and personal, denies, leaving Exit all alone. 1 versus 3. They try and keep the dream alive for MIBR. Bomb unable to go down, and now he's stuck in a very, very precarious spot where numbers don't favour him, hasn't got the space, but at the very least, a 1 versus 2 makes it doable. Looking for information. They know where he is. He hasn't got too much of an inkling where they are.
I always hold my breath every time a player gets close to the edge there. I mean, we've seen players kind of dive off spectacularly, the swan dives, so hopefully we don't see that again here. Of course, Exit just trying desperately to hold on to this one little AK. Again, you know, bomb not planted. Would have been nice to have the extra cash, but Imperial came into this at a little bit of an advantage. Talk about how important it is to build up that cash on the CT side, and having won out that first round, looking pretty good. MIBR do still keep it expensive though, so that will definitely help them going forward in the rounds. But for now, you know, it's one of those slow starts. You got to give it a little bit of time. Exit, not going to be allowed to hold on to the rifle.
Yeah, I mean, as we stand, it was looking like potentially he could have been able to pull off something special, and it required something special. But no, not going to be allowed. Vinny swinging into the FAMAS. Nets herself a free AK-47 as well. It's a little cherry on top for them. And of course, you know, all in all, a 2-0 start from Imperial, and surviving against the force buy, it's a very, very important situation for them to be in. The denial of the bomb plant as well gives no longevity in the economy over towards MIBR. So all in all, a very strong start for the CT side. And that's what you'd expect on Vertigo. Once you've got a comfortable CT pistol round, you should be able to net at least 2 to 3 afterwards. And that's what we're seeing. However, though, Jota has gone for the hero AK.
I'm curious to see if that's going to net some results. Of course, it's a little bit of an investment here. But I mean, even look at a player like Wood, who is down on 0. He's clearly kind of spread the wealth around a little bit. And on top of the AK, Jota also has full armor. So he's clearly meant to be, as is the name, the hero rifle. And he's meant to be the hero player. Yeah, he's meant to create some space, get some of that chip damage in, allow the rest of the MIBR players the opportunity to get the cleanup that they need. But right now, one of the biggest criticisms we had for MIBR yesterday was how slow their play is. Seeing that repeated again here. And Imperial not getting impatient. They're just holding their angles. They know MIBR have to come to them. They have to move. Otherwise, you know, they can't plant the bomb. So time is against them.
Swing it in. First kill going away, Vinny, but that AK-47 he picked up previous round. Makes it a second before he falls to the hands of Chelo. But he himself going to drop. Fur makes it a 3K, and just like that, to 3 rounds. Imperial, the dream start continues. The flawless start continues. And of course, for MIBR, they desperately start turning things around. Jota with that hero AK, not really able to find what they were looking for. It wasn't even really made too expensive. They only really lost 1. So for Imperial, strong start, everything looking good in the CT camp. And it's kind of that dominant showing that we saw in our previous series against the likes of 9Z.
All right, just for you guys, we realize that the HUD is a little oof at the moment, so we're going to get that fixed up in just a moment. Sorry about that. But double AWP coming out there. Fantastic. Very early as well. MIBR putting a lot of cash into this. Obviously, they put a big spend onto Jota. And unfortunately, in this round, he's not going to have terribly much to work with. But at least the rest of the team does have some of that firepower.
Yeah, really playing a little bit on the backside. Molotov in towards Sandbag, really pushing in front of the smoke, and that's such a smart play. Turtle didn't even expect him to be so up close and personal, and it becomes costly because of that. In towards mid, chelo, who was one of the standout players from MIBR yesterday, falling early to the hands of boltz, and this is exactly what Imperial were looking for. More control in towards mid, boltz doubles down, and in a matter of only mere moments, MIBR, one of the Brazilian powerhouses, left with just 2. But of course, Woods brings it down to 4. A nice shot with the AWP. And this big green needs to start stepping up a range, especially when you got the likes of Fallen with an AWP in his hands.
Rough round again for MIBR. Really struggling to make some headway here. I mean, they had all the opportunities as well. Just like misplays again. And Imperial, we said, you know, they looked really stellar in their first series of the day, and they're clearly following on with that trend, looking incredibly good. MIBR just... I'm curious to see what the buy is going to look like coming into this round, because everybody's more or less on equal footing. Obviously, that's why Jota didn't buy into the last one, and they've got a bit of cash that they could potentially spend here, but they also have to be really weary about how much they do. The economy starts to look very shaky as things continue along. I mean, even Imperial, you know, Fallen is in a bit of a rough... Oh, there we go. Okay, he was just like on the wrong weapon.
Yeah.
Way to just like completely confuse me just for a second. But hey, still got hey-ho, AWP still in play, and MIBR opting for a couple of deagles because, well, yeah, can't afford to spend too much.
Seaside Star has been so good here. He's going to come forward as well. Fur finds the opener. Vinny adding 2 to his tally, and it's already been an impressive tally at that. Fur, one more, leaves Exit all alone. In a matter of what was, you know, we barely even finished our conversation about round number 4, and it's looking like round number 5 is going to follow suit in a very quick fashion, as Imperial are going to find a 5-0 start. And we were speaking about which Imperial we're going to get, right? We were going to get the Imperial that yesterday struggled against 9Z, lost on map number 3 of that one and dropped towards the lower bracket, or we're going to get the one who destroyed 9Z early, didn't even allow them to get to double digits. That was the big asking point coming in towards this grand final series, and, well, I think it's clear to see which one we're getting. 5-0. Imperial start things off brilliantly, and MIBR they need to get to that drawing board immediately because things are not looking good in that camp.
Well, I mean, the last round being the anti-eco, you're pretty much expecting that it's not going to go MIBR's way. Now they find themselves in a position where they are going to be able to potentially bring something to the table. I'm actually having flashbacks to the last series of Imperial versus 9Z, particularly on Inferno, when we kept saying, you know, oh, they've got cash in their back pocket, now they can make... oh, they're dead.
Yeah.
So hopefully MIBR can make a little bit more happen here. They get a nice little bit of early chip damage in the round, but, you know, there's a couple players that I'm looking to, and maybe for the wrong reasons. You know, Wood was someone that wasn't really showing up in the first series yesterday, and it took a little while for him to find his stride, and then he started to show up. I'm also looking at Chelo, who's been very, very consistent throughout every single series. He is never a quiet player, so if he's quiet here, there's clearly going to be a bit of a problem, a bit of an issue that needs to be kind of dealt with.
So I'm going to come forward. It gives them a little bit of that room to work with in terms of pushing their way forward over to the stairs. It's not a treacherous path going upstairs. Now they got that smoke, giving them a slight bit of a head glitch above it. But as it dissipates, that's when things become, well, dicey. Now, Vinny, over towards ramp. Spawning out one, but Woods going to be his demise. The AWP reigning supreme. And Woods, who was very slow in our opening day of the closed qualifiers here in South America, thankfully now starting to look a little bit more on top of things as he makes it a 3rd kill to his name. And what has been a poor start from IBR, he seems to be a slight shining light with that big green.
The shining lights is exactly what they need now. Already 5 rounds behind, and, well, 1 player down. Evens out the numbers a little bit here, so not too terrible, but need to keep a little bit of that momentum going as they've found a very open B site. FNX is holding some pretty tight angles here. Oh, doesn't actually. Yeah, I mean,
Hello, Fallen. The double with the HE. Kobe Supreme finds 2. Time runs out, and for MIBR, they were their own demise. And this was something that we saw all too prevalent in the Cruzeiro game yesterday. MIBR were causing their own demise by leaving things too little, too late, and paying the price for it. And once again, a similar scenario. Now, tactical pause called by MIBR. And Sam, I think it's safe to say it's about damn time, because things are not looking good over there.
Yeah, pretty much. Again, you know, we've kind of pointed it out, but it's this consistent need or desire, I suppose, to play a far more slow game. And you very often find yourself caught out. You're giving over a lot of time to the enemy team to start rotating around, to start kind of flushing you, especially with a lot of that util. They're forcing you into different positions because you haven't really made a decision. Now, the slow play style can work. Obviously, a lot of teams use it to great efficiency, but you have to consider who you're up against and how they're dealing with it. If you're up against a team that knows how to handle the slower play style, you have to start making changes. We saw some great fast executes from MIBR yesterday that worked out quite well, especially because it took an enemy team off guard. But for now, they're still kind of waiting around in it. And all right, there's a little bit of time left here to still figure out exactly how you want to take those next few rounds. But eventually, you have to kind of make that decision.
In towards mid, the hit gonna come forward. Turtle trying to find a bit of space, but he's full blind. boltz, a couple of pop shots, but it's gonna fall off the angle. Doesn't want to really be too over aggressive, so gonna give up that space, but that could become problematic as Turtle starts to pressure him further. Looking towards CT, Flash will come forward. Orp might be caught off guard, but in comes the support of boltz, looking to try and find one, which he does excellently. Opening kill, going the way of Imperial, and that's exactly what they were looking for, to deny that mid control in the face of the T side. And well, for MIBR, now they've got to force their way forward. boltz does take some damage in return, but staying alive is a priority and a necessity to once again deny the entry in towards the site.
MIBR are giving up so much map control. Yeah, we talk about flushing, and Imperial, not only are they using their utility to force MIBR to have to move around and rotate and kind of force them off of their angles, but they're also constantly moving around and taking map control so that MIBR don't have a point to move to or move from, or, you know, find any sort of avenues.
FNX, I want to beat the Jota doubling down. Gives a lifeline, extended out towards MIBR. Does get tagged down a little bit, but the same role. Wood comes in for support. The clock's enough to drop FNX and leaves Vinny now all alone, isolates in the 1 vs 2. Both sides are taking damage, so a headshot with the M4 L1Ss could become problematic, but Jota's come in for a sneaky kill. And that's MIBR finally getting a round on the board. And the question is now, of course, can this be a catalyst to success looking forward for MIBR? They've been sporadic in their success yesterday, but they're able to go to that grand final through the upper bracket. But Imperial seem like a revitalized beast.
It's nice to see that MIBR are, you know, making the changes necessary. So they finally get themselves in onto site. And this has been one of the interesting things. Imperial very often leave that B site relatively unguarded. So there's quite a bit of space there for MIBR to maneuver. And so they get in onto the site and they set up their crossfires and they manage to lock it down. And we're seeing a little bit better strategic play here. So now, as you say, it needs to be the catalyst, needs to be a continuation of that. You know, take a look at the scoreboard, for example, and it's actually Wood, who I had kind of mentioned had a really slow start to the day yesterday, who's doing very well here today. And it's nice to see him start to step up and really show the caliber of player that he is. You hate to see when a player is having a slow day, and you know the player hates it as well. So always nice to see them showing what they're actually made of. Yeah,
no, that's exactly the case. Wood, who struggled a bit yesterday, found his form, and Jota doing, well, exactly the same. Give the opener. Quick Trade gonna come forward. FNX and Fallen one apiece, but Turtle stepping up to bring the numbers level in a 3 vs 3. Damage has slightly been dealt over towards Jota, but as we stand, it's even in the server. Smoking towards out of ramp as Fallen holds and waits. Re-smoking towards top as well to try and cut down on a bit of that space, but no. The T-side of MIBR just going to cut that tempo. Molotov will come in or force Fallen into a slightly more passive angle, and that's the smart decision. Now Jota going to close on the space.
I like that MIBR take a slightly faster approach in this as well. They start kind of making their way up the stairs there, and now Jota's found himself in a good spot. He's got a lot of good rotations that he can make. It works out very well for them. And again, you know, this now they're over looking to get that bomb down with the numbers advantage that they have. Need to be weary though. You know, we've seen what Fur can do when he's still alive. And Vinny, I'm wondering if Vinny's gonna maybe create like a little bit of a crossfire, maybe take a slightly different route to get to site, and then you make it a little bit. Oh no, it looks like they're just gonna force the save here.
Yeah, I think that's probably the smart call. I mean, for Imperial, they don't need to try. It's not kind of a be-all and end-all round, right? They can afford to give up a second over towards MIBR and keep out of the M4A1Ss, and that's the way to play it. When you look at the long-term economy of the CT side, it's not great. I mean, Vinny's got 300 left in the bank. Fallen's got 250 because he's been buying those AWPs. Yeah, the likes of Fur and FNX have a bit of economy to work with. Potentially could even drop something like a FAMAS, but I mean, it's not a round in which they have to force a 2 versus 3 retake where it's really kind of the odds stacked against them. Keep on what they got, reset, and re-go again to try and find 7 heading into round number 9. But a much better execute from MIBR. They kind of cut that tempo, wait for the slight errors from Imperial Esports, and then they just pressure them. And that's what we saw, you know, when Fallen falls, they've got all that space over towards A. It's a free plant, post plant set up, done round.
All right. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what's going to happen in this next round here. You know, you've spoken quite a bit about the economy, and we can see that Imperial have suffered quite a bit the effects of MIBR consistently making those rounds quite expensive, and of course winning a couple of rounds for themselves as well. So MIBR definitely have that advantage here once again. They also have a lot more of that utility, but one of the things we'd also pointed out yesterday was very often they'll, you know, use a ton of that utility very early on, and then they don't have it later for those side executes.
True.
So nice to see that they've managed to hold on to quite a bit of that util, but we're seeing them with that more slow play here again, giving over a lot of space for Imperial to start to rotate around. But I don't think they'll take this too aggressive, right? You know you're at a disadvantage, so you know, wait for MIBR to come to you.
Exactly that. Now chelo over towards stairs. He's looking for that entry over towards that B side, which is easier than done. We've seen be a bit of a tough nut to crack, that B site with the holding very, very passive. The crossfires are very easy to be set up and a lot of angles to be clear, which not all the utility can cover. It's quite a tough one, which requires quite an extensive push. Now, Vinny holding close. We haven't seen this aggressive stance over towards Yellow Tar, but a lot of this hope residing on this B-side hold as chelo pushes away forward. It's a lovely shot towards FNX. That opens up the site, clears it to Baron, B bomb site. And once again, might even potentially be an early save call. They'll look for an early entry to try and find some way back in towards the side, but if no kill comes immediately, I think they're just going to make the call to fall back. And yep, that's what we're seeing.
And this is the thing. It's that relatively unguarded B site again. And chelo, the tip of the spear, he's consistently been such a good player. He will move in onto the side first. He'll open up the space. And now bomb gets planted. And the rest of the team is in Narnia because they're checking for any potential flanks. Chelo does such a good job of cracking open an unguarded site and making sure that the bomb can go down that the rest of his team can just play protection squad, right? They're the entourage. We're playing protect the president. And it works perfectly. Once again, Imperial forced into yet another save.
Things are becoming a little bit slightly dicier in that Imperial camp. It was a very strong start from them, but it's not really been the best of periods recently. Attack balls come forward. Morale not really at the highest standing, especially, you know, with Fallen and FNX really unable to buy into anything too great. Vinny could drop over a FAMAS if he wants to, potentially an MP9. But not really the easy situation. And the attack pause, I think, is actually a good call. I think MIBR, it's comfortable to say, or it's safe to say when I say that, they are in control of the tempo, the momentum in this game so far. And if you let that run wild on a T side of Vertigo, it can become very problematic, where potentially even MIBR can go in towards the second half with a lead in their favour.
This is interesting, because the half was a 9-6 in favour of MIBR the last time they played at the major. So I'm wondering if this is where MIBR, you know, they've started to find some success. They've started to find the results that they need. Fallen, who's usually, of course, on the AWP now, only on the FAMAS. He doesn't have a ton of cash to utilize, while the rest of the team at least have rifles. But there's still an opportunity here for MIBR to keep it up. Now, what's interesting is they're kind of posturing over towards A again, but you can see there's slightly more protection over towards the B side this time around. Imperial don't want to give over the same kind of space a second time in a row.
No, not at all. And of course, because I've seen Imperial try and play a little bit more passive, damage should have come through, but for the most part, not really anything too problematic. Vinny's very aggressive. It's a one-and-done position where he holds. He's looking for just a head to poke up, and I think Wood's all too aware of where he possibly could be. It's like whack-a-mole over towards the A-round position. Crossfire is set up, and it's quite a nice one at that, but the lacking amount of utility that the seats that have could become problematic late round.
I mean, MIBR haven't really committed to anything just yet. Oh, there we go. Jota starts making his way up the ramp. Gonna toss out a little bit of that util here. See what the decision is going to be is, yes, Turtle with the bomb. Gonna start making his way up. And they've actually managed to push that Crossfire off of its position quite nicely. And that volley over the top is so good because it forces them out of position even further. This is great from MIBR.
The rotation come through. Chelo, good kill as well from him. That entry, as you mentioned, a great start. And this is the tough clear. Fur. Mention on one and done positions. This is all the more same. But Fur going to swing in for one. Looking to make a two. Falling off the position. Chelo, one of his own, but Fallen and Vinny combine. Take the numbers back in their favour. The CT side. They're just going aggressive, loud and proud to get the kills in their favour. Pulling knife out the wrong time. But Wood, unfortunate. His knife gets pulled out. Vinny denies. Bomb trying to go down exit. Lovely. Tap and kill, but unfortunately with Vinny, all he had to do was hold. Wait, bomb not planted means round win for the CT side. Another scenario, another situation where MIBR lose because the clock is their worst enemy.
And this is heartbreaking because, so they used a lot of really good utility there. They throw out an early molly, Jota pushing up, throws out the molly, forces the one player off of the cross angle. Then they toss the molly over the top so that if anybody is hiding behind there, they're forced off of their angle as well. But once they've done that, they take so long to actually move in towards site that Imperial have had time to rotate around and lock down the A site. It was played so well, but the timing, they played just too slow. And because they play too slow, as you say, they wind up running out of time as well. Bomb can't get planted. I mean, XZ had 1 HP. Like, there's no way that he's going to try and take a fight to try and win out in the last second. And as you said, Vinny was just hiding all he had to do. So unfortunately, yeah, the clock works against MIBR. And now Chelo being tip of the spear and being aggressive, that works against him.
So I'm going to come forward. Turtle just going to make that step away. Utility reigns in. And as we stand, this is a strong position for Imperial to be in. They don't need to do anything special now. Just sit back, wait for the mistakes from RBR. I mean, meant about playing the trade game, this is all the more prevalent. In a 5v4 situation with a fairly decent amount of utility for Imperial to work with, they can just cut down that clock once again and flip the pressure over towards MIBR.
Okay, Jota gonna nicely even out the numbers for themselves here, but again, it looks like they're going for that B hit, but B is a little bit more defended this time around.
That's safe to say. They're going to find one more. Jota falling. boltz doubling it down as well with Woods out of the fray. boltz makes it two. Exit should have converted and failed to do so. Leaves it all down to one man. Turtle, as he very nearly falls to his demise. But I think the most important thing there is he gives me the sound cue. They know exactly where he's coming from. There's no point in him shift walking anymore. With 20 seconds left to work with, and unfortunately just one smoke in his hand, it's safe to say that this should be an 8th round on the board and Imperial taking the half no matter what the outcome is for the rest of these rounds. And with 7 seconds left, I don't even think he's going to be able to get a bomb plant. He's being flanked from all positions, trying to hunt him down. It's a smart call by Imperial, but will he be able to stay alive is the question. I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, should do. I mean, there's no real reason for Imperial to push that, right? And I mean, MIBR, okay, so economy is not completely in the drink at the moment, but you know, it's not perfect. Again, we'll be able to buy into this. We'll be able to have a little bit of utility, but again, not going to be perfect. Got a little bit of a tech pause now as players sort out some, technical difficulties. And in the meantime, Imperial still haven't had a chance to buy into the AWP. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for Fallen to get the opportunity to have that in his hands. As we see Wood buying into the Scout, of course, he's going to want to get the AWP in his hands as soon as he possibly can. But for now, it's just not going to be possible. These teams have been keeping it very, very expensive for one another. And, Wood was at the top of the scoreboard a second ago, but chelo, after those last couple of rounds, he's just overtaken so nicely. we talk about how it's important to have those consistent players, and he really is that for MIBR.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. I think chelo has been the real shining light in this team. Since this kind of core came together, chelo has been the one who's made a difference. The only thing is about who supports him. We've seen at times Turtle be kind of one of those names cropping up into the fray a lot. Potentially Jota. I think yesterday Jota had some really decent rounds from him. Some impact frag to the least, but sometimes the rest of them can be a little bit quiet, and that's where MIBR struggle, where Imperial don't. You got big names on their side who all step up in their own regard, and of course when one or two start to pull apart, Imperial start to pull away. That's how they like to play. 8-3 is where we stand. 5-round lead. And for MIBR, a full buy coming out, or full-ish buy, with a skeleton in the hands of Jota that's already taken a substantial amount of damage.
I mean, MIBR have managed to take quite a bit of space here towards A, but look how much chip damage, as you say, they've taken so early on. Now they're looking to push this, but Imperial have this entire A site locked down with players. There you go. Pop over the top, Jota goes down. It's just a little bit of cleanup. He only had like 4 HP left, and there you go.
Again, that trade's still working in the CT's favor. Fur makes it a double. And it's Exit all alone. Has to go huge here. Finds the first. 3 more in that death note, but the question is, what can he do with it? And I'm only 16 points of HP. It's quite the mountain to climb to get back in towards this, and of course even more, has to pick up that bomb. 28 seconds to work with, and it's not a lot to work with.
I don't know if it's just me, I don't know if I'm crazy, but this felt like a trap.
Yeah.
You feel like MIBR, you know, walking up the ramp there and gaining so much space, and they're probably thinking, this is a trap. This has to be a trap. And it was. And the trap was executed perfectly. Imperial give them a ton of space. MIBR walk out into the open, and they get mowed down as they try and make their way towards site. Unfortunately, just doesn't play out the way that they would have wanted. I like the fact that they take a little bit more of that space. But again, it's, you know, they take a little bit of extra space, and then they kind of stall out a bit. And then they don't really make a decision until, well, now you've already lost 2 players, so what decision can you conceivably make at that point? Oh, jeez, Turtle. 2 seconds into the round, mowed down in his prime.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, with a low buy, MIBR tried to go aggressive. They tried to kind of overwhelm the CT side, but, I mean, that firepower makes all the difference. Spamming through the wood, FNX gonna find one. Standing his ground as well. HG's coming towards stairs, could cause some issues, and they will do exactly that. Jota, chelo taking damage. And Jota very fortunate to stay alive, in fact, as that spam through the wood is providing to be problematic. Tapping at range, boltz will come alive to find one more. And it's chelo, Exit in a 2 versus 5 with a double deagle set up and a very, very tall task ahead of them. FNX cleans things up, and that's double digits in the first half. What a performance from Imperial we're seeing on Vertigo here so far. They have looked now unstoppable at times, and they've got a 7-round lead, Sam.
God, flawless round, and they have absolutely smashed their last scoreline against this team on this map. They did that with 9Z as well on Nuke, smashed their scoreline and just completely obliterated. This team is going from strength to strength. And again, okay, in that previous round, we weren't really expecting too much to come out of MIBR. But now, we have the AWP v AWP battle. Wood versus Fallen, if they do actually get to see one another. Look at this aggression again from Imperial. I mean, I love this. I love how much they swap things up a little bit. Give a bit of space, take a bit of space, but always in control of the pacing.
Swing gonna come in. Vinny. Nice opener from him. Turtle full blind gonna fall, and that's not exactly the opener they were looking for. Miss Molotov not gonna help either. They tried to get a close alleyway position, and a Miss Molly now doesn't give them that clarity that this position is even remotely secure. Jota just in front of the smoke, though, potentially could spot a head out. But as we stand, you know, for Imperial, they don't need to be too aggressive. That missed out both ways. Jota down to 22 points of HP. Really swinging in, but that provides to be costly as he falls. chelo finding one. Quick trade from Fur. Orb will come alive or falling. Looking to find one more, and it's only down to 2. Exit, Wood. The final MIBR's 4th in this penultimate round of the half, and with one player into a sandbag, and all they have to do is just stay alive. Exit has no free pathway in towards that side, and look at this angle from Fur. Holding, waiting, flash to come, dropped in towards the left-hand side of that smoke, and Exit's in a really troublesome spot. He's pushed his way forward. They're neck and neck with each other. SoundQ has been hurt as well, and that potentially could be costly, and it will do as Exit finds Fur. Still 3 more on the tally. Wood bringing it level though. 2 versus 2 as boltz rotation comes in, but is it too little too late? Gonna make it the way on towards the side. A laboured spray. Exit damage dealt, but both ways. Bomb gets planted. And it's all down to one. Exit with 22 points of HP has to pull off something special. There's the first, but not quite the second. FNX, lovely trade.
This is one of the better rounds that MIBR has had, just in terms of keeping it very close and keeping it contested as well as they possibly could. They get themselves quite a bit of space, and I think a lot of that has to do with, so we see the missed molly come out, which is unfortunate, but then the counter smoke, like the following smoke, right, is to stop a player from wanting to push up onto that ramp. But at that point, players already pushed past the smoke. Like, the smoke lands behind him. So immediately, like I said, looking to spot out the head, and he does manage to. He even avoids the crossfire that was set up at the top of the ramp as well, and they're able to win out those trades. That creates a lot of space for them. When it comes down to the 2v2, that's the most important part. It's even footing. They have the AWP on their side as well, but unfortunately can't connect the shots in the way that they would have liked. This is a good way to start out the very last round in the half, though. Gonna get Vinny off the board. Ooh. And Fur, in fact. This is solid.
Yeah, lovely double opener for Jota. However, he's gonna fall. Fallen himself, only good for one. FNX in for a trade. boltz brings the numbers back in favor of the CT side. It's all down to Wood. 1 versus 2. Him and FNX not in the greatest of positions in terms of the HP, as he's sneaking his way slowly over towards his B site. He's also cautious of the angles here, but no one's present. This site is completely barren. He will be able to get a bomb down and somewhat of a post plan set up. The question is now a case of, how does he set up this post plan? Because he's got 2 bodies to find.
Oh, man. I mean, this round was looking so good for MIBR.
Miss smoke as well. Well, actually kind of works to his favor. It allows him that cross back over towards the rafters position, and Wood holding as the rotation comes in. FNX and boltz closing out a lot of that space, holding right inside of Gen, but a smoke in his face makes it uncomfortable. Has to go into a slightly elevated angle, which could give away his head, and that's exactly what we see. FNX will close things out, and ladies and gentlemen, at the half, it is 12-3 in favor of Imperial. They are steamrolling Vertigo. And now it's all down to MIBR on their side to turn things round. We'll see you, ladies and gentlemen, after the break.
Never die. Fighting as we push through the darkest times. I'll be there by your side.
Hello, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Second half underway, 12-3 in favour of Imperial. Sam, I think it's safe to say that this so far has been very one-sided, and it's looking like it's going to continue in exactly that fashion. FNX go for the first, looking to make it 2. This time, not going to be able to double it down with Vinny and Fur coming for support, and it's a 4 versus 2 in mere moments.
That was pretty explosive. You know what? At least, yeah, it's not. This isn't even an at least. Imperial just doing so much here. Wasn't really sure that they'd be able to do this much on their first pistol round, but MIBR have been looking a little shaky. So I suppose it's somewhat to be expected. I was kind of hoping that we'd see a little bit of a resurgence from them, but no, unfortunately, Imperial just kind of overrun them a little bit. Bomb gets planted, they win the round, they make bank.
It's basically the same pistol round we saw kickstart things, isn't it? This is what Imperial are so good at doing, just hyper-aggressive pistol rounds, close down all of that space, right up in your face, make the seat side uncomfortable, or make any side uncomfortable. And because of it, a 10-round lead they now hold, and of course, with this round in their favour, bomb plant going down, that buy, more than healthy, triple AK-47, no complaints.
Yeah, I mean, this is great for a second round buy, right? Okay, Fallen, we know that he's buying low because obviously he's got a ton of utility on him, and also hoping to potentially get that AWP out pretty soon. Also, I saw some chatter a little bit earlier about IGL. So as far as we know, Fallen, the AWPer, is the IGL of Imperial, and Woody, the AWPer, also the IGL for MIBR. And I think that playing a maybe not supportive is the best way of saying it, but obviously you're not like the tip of the spear, right? You're not the entry, and it does give you a little bit more leeway to make those calls.
Yeah, you got kind of a few different roles that the IGL can play. We see, if you compare and contrast Fallen, for example, of course, it was Liquid days, kind of the more AWP IGL roles, kind of Carrigan, who, as of just late as well, had some of the best entry stats of any player, not even just IGL. So you got to go a quite varied style of IGL you can play here. Let's just get back to the action now. FNX can be tested momentarily. Going to fall off the angle. They walk straight into the meat grinder, though. Easy for 2. Looking to make it 3 and 4, which the trade transfer does oh so excellently. FNX on for the ace here. 8 points of HP, but Turtle will deny, but I think it's only momentarily. A dink on towards Fallen, but it doesn't really make too much of a difference. Quad kill for FNX there. As he got up to 19 kills. Imperial up to 14. You love it.
I love how you say, oh, FNX about to be tested, and he goes and gets a 4K.
Yeah, you can't test FNX. He loves it.
Honestly, it wasn't much of a test there. He aced it. Well, he didn't ace it. He got close to acing it. But, 4 out of 5 ain't bad. Good stuff there.
He passed in my
MIBR
books.
finally... He more than passed. He did freaking
Flying
well.
colours.
He did better than I would have.
Oh, agreed. Same here. Oh, hello. Is that a misnade? It was. It bounced off the roof there. Now, that's unfortunate. Vinny down to 61. They were right in saying from his own HE grenade, so, you do hate to see it. Utility in towards bottom ramp. Imperial with 11 round lead. A full buy coming out for MIBR. This is their first full test on towards CT side, but potentially could be their last test. This could be their only full buy we see from the CT side. They can be, lose this, they're into a double eco situation, unless they're able to make it expensive or save some weapons. And that's, if they lose. I'm not going to count them out just yet, but MIBR, this is a crucial round. This is the be all and end all, essentially, for them.
I like that they've split themselves quite nicely here. Have a couple of really good angles to try and take advantage of. Imperial also kind of using that slower style as well. Oh, the slow style backfires. Oh.
Chelo and Jota. One apiece. Vinny, though, at the very least, still making it somewhat doable. But Vinny taking substantial damage does make this uncomfortable. And, of course, with no AWP in play, it means he can't abide by Bogdan's law, pick up that AWP himself, and utilize the low HP. Boltz in towards Ali. Going to close on this close position. Bit of space being made over towards the A side. Chelo just toying with the idea of checking. It's all about timing. In towards Tetris, one spotted. Boltz going to fall off the angle a little bit. Takes a little bit of damage. Nice flash, though. And a Molotov will force that Tetris player back into a slightly more passive position. Allow him an easier swing if he wants it. But that's where Chelo comes up supreme. FNX and Vinny one apiece. Woods as well. Good for one of his own. Bomb to be planted, and that's their priority. Get the bomb down, gives no buy going forward. If he'd be able to find anything more, would be something. But no, not going to be the case. Exiting for the cleanup duties. That's MIBR, up to 4.
Good round. I was, kind of praising their positioning there. I thought that they had a really good spot. And, well, I mean, they take a pretty aggressive stance down into ramp. They get those first kind of opening kills. And I think that really took Imperial off guard. We look at how MIBR play their T side. They play it very, very slow and cautiously and a little bit more methodically. This time it was more like a coordinated assault, right? They go very aggressive down ramp. They get those opening kills. They get a ton of space created, and then they can pull back a little bit because, again, when you're on that CT side, you just have to wait for the team to play into you. Time is against them. You're Gucci.
Exactly.
And because they already have the player advantage, they're able to obviously leverage that into the next round win. So very, very well played here for MIBR. Hopefully they can keep that going. Of course, with Imperial having getting that plant down, as you mentioned, they would be able to get into a buy. But again, it's this push down ramp. It's the spray and pray through the smoke that connects onto Vinny, and that's going to be a huge problem for Imperial.
An opening kills proved to be important time and time again in terms of the success. Oh, Shotter. Well, it just flies by his head, but of course it allows him to find a second, make that a third as, well, all down to 2 for the T side. Make that 1. All in the hands of Boltz. An ace clutch needed from him as well. He's just going to fall back to a slightly more passive position. Back over towards the B side he's posturing towards, which is, as we stand, still open. A reload will come forward, and that will give all the information over. That mid player would have heard that reload coming in, and it should be a completely free kill, or so I say. He's expecting the B push mouse coming forward, and Boltz might get a little bit of timing in his favour as he slowly maneuvers his way forward. And with 40 seconds to work with, he could actually pull off something special here.
Well, Well, as the last player left standing, it's definitely possible, but is it probable is the question. And I'm really happy to see that MIBR have made a nice little change here, a nice little adaptation, and that's what I'm kind of hoping to see from Imperial. They've tried the ramp play a couple of times, and it hasn't really netted them the results that they would have wanted. So hopefully in the next round, maybe we see something else come out.
Yeah, I mean, the question is now for Imperial. They've had that small bit of success at the start, where things did look very good for them. It looked like the start of this half was going to be, you know, a quick closeout. And now they're struggling a little bit. I mean, it was a slightly more comfortable round from MIBR. Yes, only 2 remain alive, but, you know, realistically speaking, it was a pretty decently comfortable round from them. The retake worked really well, and in doing so, left them a wealth of opportunities looking long term. For Imperial, the struggles have come from that opening kill. When they lose that man advantage, they lose a lot of their kind of firepower. The wind gets blown out of their sails kind of immediately. And potentially that's where it comes from their quite aggressive nature, right? They try to go things very fast, very quick to kind of force a bit of success in their favor. Potentially just slowing down that tempo a lot and baiting out that MIBR utility could work better for them.
A little sad to see that the round where they do go for the B hit is the round where they have to make something happen with the hero AK. Not ideal, not perfect. We'll see if they can get some kind of value out of that. So the util coming out to try and give them some space. boltz with a nice early pick off there, but the molly, that's so well played from MIBR.
Yeah, boltz falling is unfortunate there as well. He does get to throw the AK-47 back over to a teammate. Molotov will come forward as well, and this could even tempt fate of a rotation. Exit may have just been spotted there. Not too sure whether Finney had a little peek, but no, it's all good. The rotation's being made. They're going back towards that kind of on the pass selection. Did they go up towards mid, try and make that split work and test Turtle, or was it just a standard A hit? It's looking like it is going to be a standard A hit. Information gathered. Chelo spots the first. Smoke in as well. Gives him a peek from above. Waiting for it. Delivering. Passing of flying colours. Drops the bomb. They line up and he makes it 3.
Chelo.
And it's for now all alone. Tekken in hand. Does cause problems. Damage is being dealt, especially economic damage. But in a 1 versus 3 with only 16 points of HP, it's safe to say MIBR are knocking on the door of 6 here and should enter it soon.
Again, you know, it's Chelo, right? I mean, we spoke about him at length yesterday, and he does so much for this team in so many rounds. Really impressive stuff here. Helps to secure yet another round. And okay, bearing in mind that was a very low buy for Imperial. They had the 1 hero AK, and it get a little bit of damage done. They do manage to take out 2 of the MIBR players, but they don't keep it as expensive as they would have wanted to. They don't take the guns away completely, and Woody is still going to be able to buy into the AWP. And boltz, who of course bought into the AK, that was the high-risk, high-reward play, and unfortunately now he's going to be stuck on a Tech 9. Imperial need to find an answer to this MIBR aggression.
Slower tempo is what I was asking for, just to kind of bait out the initial amount of that utility that MIBR bring in and utilize really early in towards round. You speak about kind of the mollies and smokes that they try and get down towards ramp to cut off that tempo. Allow MIBR to throw them. Play for the late round, which is what MIBR normally try to do themselves in their defaults. And from there, you can start to make decisions going forward. Nade will come through, won't really cause too big of an issue. Wood, the only one who's taken kind of the full brunt of some damage so far, with the AWP, not really too much of an issue. As we stand, that slow tempo seems to be already looking a little bit more fruitful. They haven't lost that man advantage, but Jota's got a slight gap in that smoke, and that can become problematic. As he just holds, waits for an opportunity, and Fallen trying to figure out what's the next step.
Honestly, I think that they're trying to bait into MIBR's kind of more aggressive play. They're kind of hoping MIBR are going to push out and they can take advantage of that. But MIBR are playing this very, very smart. Jota again with the gap in the smoke. He does get traded, but that's going to be him getting the very first kill of the round. And that does give a little bit of an advantage here. Yep, there you go.
Oh, he nearly fights 2 as well, Chelo. Unfortunate not to do so as well, with significant damage dealt over towards Fur, but numbers brought level. Molotov will come in, and Turtle might just sit in the flames and try and find one of his own. alone, falling away down to 42, but he walks straight in towards boltz. F and X1 as well, leaving exit now all alone. 1 versus 3, bomb planted with just shy of 10 seconds, but down it goes. Post-spawn set up, and exit with no utility has to make a retake work. 3 kills to find, 1 bomb to defuse, and not a whole lot of time to do so, as he slowly toys the idea. And you know what? He might even be tempted by a save. There's an AWP right there ready waiting for him, and as this bomb's half ticked, I think potentially it's looking all the more likely to do so. He might be spotted by the sandbags. Player has been AWP collected, falling away. Smart decision made by exit. Save call, but the other side of the stick is Imperial. They're up to 15.
Yeet, run away. Now, I think that Imperial play this so well. It's one of those times where they've read into what MIBR have been doing, and then they figure out how to respond to it. And I mean, that's what every team is supposed to be doing, but sometimes they just can't quite get it right. In this particular instance, they wait a little bit. They know that if they start pushing ramp, the rest of the MIBR are going to show up. They're going to come, they're going to try to create reinforcements, particularly if they lose 1 or 2 players in an early engagement. So they know that Jota is going to be holding pretty deep on that angle. Yes, they do lose Vinny, but I suppose it's a sacrifice worth making, and they're able to get a nice little trade-off there, and they push aggressively up that ramp because they know that they basically opened up the site. It's a perfect play.
Yeah, and unfortunately now, for the C-side of MIBR, they've got a real lackluster amount of firepower, and they're just holding W. They're trying to take the aim duels, they want to go aggressive, try to make something work, and well, so far it's not. Exits with one of the few rifles they've got to work with. Good for the first kill, but he gets immediately domed out of the round with a beautiful, sumptuous shot by Fur. Brings to numbers level, bomb planted, but he's very isolated over towards that site. The CZ, IKEA building on damage dealt, but not going to be able to find the frag, and numbers dwindling, HP dwindling, and so is time for MIBR to get back in towards this game, with Imperial so close to the all-elusive 16. Bomb half ticked as Jota spams him off the smoke. Not going to find too much, and Fur adds more to his impressive tally. But down he will go as Jota finds that trade. 2 versus 3. HP low on himself, but he's staying alive and causing an issue. But that's all he's going to be. Wrote, and just like that, 16-6. Imperial take map number 1. Vertigo goes their way as we now move into their pick of Inferno. This is looking like this series is going to get spicy. And MIBR going in towards Inferno, they need to step things up. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to float into a quick break, and we'll see you after it.